Over to you, Brother Hamid.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to VOTP's Health Talk, which is based on how overindulgence is the root of chronic diseases. Now, my name is Amanah. I'm pretty sure we're aware of that now, and I'm a volunteer at VOTP. And today we will explore this urgent topic, a topic which tends to be ignored. But we see the effects of this, you could say this crisis all around us. We see it in the rise of obesity. We see it in diabetes. We see it in joint problems. And we also see it in the psychological problems uh, around most of, we could say, our close circle as well, but in wider society, such as depression, etc. Now, a major contributor to all of these problems is our consumption patterns. And what I mean by consumption patterns is what we eat, when we eat it, and how much we eat it. So Dr. Hamza, who is a medical practitioner, he is qualified. He's a qualified doctor in Pakistan, also in the United Kingdom, and he is currently qualifying to be a practitioner in the United States. So Dr. Hamza has extensive research in this specific area, and he'll be providing a holistic perspective to this issue, a holistic perspective to this crisis, because this is a crisis. Now, what I specifically mean by that is he'll be offering us a complete long-term and effective solutions. So we won't be able to provide any short-term solutions in that regard. So this will take time, and problems like this do take time. They do take consistency. So without any further delay, I'd just like to pass the mic to Dr. Hamza. Dr. Hamza, welcome, and the mic's yours.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and thank you for VOTP for having me again. And as Brother Armagan has mentioned, you guys can hear me clearly, right?
Yeah.
Okay. As Brother Armagan has mentioned briefly, what we'll be discussing today is generally about our lifestyles and how overconsumption of food and underactivity has resulted in widespread of diseases in the past 100 years. So before I start going through the presentation, I would like to just tell you a bit of how I'm going to go through it. So we'll start with generally talking about, generally defining what chronic disease is and how our lifestyle, modification over the past 100 years has resulted in us consuming more food and being less active. And then we're gonna, address each one. The food being the first thing we'll address, how much we're consuming and the practical steps we can take to limit that. And then we can proceed to, increasing our physical activities. And at the end, I would want to discuss the Islamic approach to this, and how in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how Rasulullah himself and the Sahaba would, how would they, what their eating habits were and how physical they were. So let's start with this. This is the first slide, and let's start with this. So initially, what I would want to talk to you about, the focus of this presentation is going to be on our consumption habits. And if some of you have watched my previous one with VOTP about addiction and dopamine, so I would like to still mention that dopamine here also plays a very big role, especially in our eating habits, and especially if we're consuming processed food and very high sugar foods. So our approach to this will be that we'll analyze individually our lifestyles, and then we're gonna use the practical steps I give to integrate that into our lives. So I'll tell you a bit about what chronic diseases are. Chronic diseases are most of those diseases that uh, are diseases that cannot be cured or diseases that over you live with for a long period of time, including diabetes, hypertension, psoriasis, a lot of the inflammatory conditions such as eczema. And most of these diseases, even though uh, a lot of debate might exist that there are a lot of genetic factors and all sorts, but a lot of it is due to the inflammation caused by the amount of foods we eat and the types of food we eat. However, moving forward, we want to see what has changed over the past 100 years, maybe more. I'm using 100 years because that's where most of the capitalism has surfaced and the advancement in technology and accessibility that we today have to food. So for the past, if you go before, if you go, let's say you go a couple of centuries back, and even in the time of Rasulullah and even the Sahaba, food was used as should be used as a source of energy. It is a fuel for your body. But I'm also guilty of this, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people here could relate to. But today we could say that, we can sit on the sofa, sit on a chair, lie down in our beds, and we're watching Netflix, YouTube, whatever, even maybe during this presentation too. And you're consuming snacks, food, thousands of calories without, doing anything, without having to physically exert throughout your day. We're just binge watching TV and just consuming and consuming. And this was a problem even before COVID happened. But what COVID did is when when we got limited to our rooms or, to our houses, and then the work from home culture dramatically reduced, even the small amount of exertion that we did, walking to the car or walking to, our workplaces. And so now what happens is you become more sedentary in your daily habits too. So you couple that with excessive eating and less movement. And what that does is it creates an imbalance in between the calories that you take in and the calories that you burn. So basically, you're taking in too much, and there's not enough output, not enough burning of those calories, or not enough activity, you would say. And that over time, that can lead to, what your body does is so it stores those extra calories and it stores those in fat. So you gain weight, and later, over a couple of years, if you continue those habits, it results in conditions like obesity, and obesity, they're directly linked to conditions like diabetes, hypertension, and even if by, let's say, some chance you don't develop these conditions, generally being overweight creates so many problems in your life. It makes it harder for you to, walk. And for some people, it makes it harder to do anything, to get out of bed if it gets to that stage. But obviously, there is always a starting point, and this is that starting point. When we consume too much and we burn too little. And obviously, I wouldn't blame the capitalism and all of it, but obviously they have played a very big role for their financial gain when we have accessibility to all these snacks and all these foods, by the click of a button on our phones, and have these big grocery stores anywhere you go. But the problem is, obviously, we're making the choice to consume them. So regardless, we're at fault in all of this too. Moving forward, obviously, when I was introduced to these topics, and I'm pretty sure hearing me talk about this, you might feel, a bit overwhelmed. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. This is not about, this topic is not about making you feel guilty about yourself or hopeless. It's about awareness. It's about making you more aware of where your current lifestyle lies and what your habits are. And then once we can do that, once we address once we can analyze those habits, then we can address them. And then we make smaller changes to, make a sustainable plan for our future. And then when we get the results we want, we can keep them. The whole purpose of this presentation is to push you in that direction of working towards a better life and healthier life. And I know today there are various products out there that guarantee you, especially with the weight loss injections like Manjaro, Ozempic, and I'm pretty sure there's a new one out there these days. I'm not sure of the name. And they do guarantee results. But the problem with these is, firstly, they have tremendous side effects and they do decrease your appetite. It is true. And you do get results. But as soon as you stop these things, you go back because you're not addressing the core issue. The core issue is the habits you've built. So unless you address those habits and you go through that difficult period, all of these things won't work. While I have said that, yes, for some patients who are very obese, maybe these fat loss injections initially will help them come down to a level where they can perform physical activity and their daily lives improve. But for majority of the people, that's not the case. Okay, so the first thing I would like to address is our eating habits, our consumption habits. And in this, we're going to talk about what we should be eating, what kinds of foods, and how much to eat. So I would like to address briefly about what kinds of foods we should eat because there's so many options, it's very diverse. But if I was to explain it as briefly as I could, I would say try to stick to home cooked foods. Try to limit as much as you can processed fast food. I know it's a very difficult thing to do. I myself am very guilty of it, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people are, but try to limit that as much as you can. They have excessive calories. There's no doubt about that, but it's not just about the calories. Even the food is highly processed and it causes a lot of inflammation in your body. And that inflammation later is going to cause a lot of problems for your body. A very good example, me and Brother Magan were discussing the presentation the other day and came up was that you should treat your body like a Ferrari. So if you had bought a Ferrari, I'm pretty sure you would not put a cheap oil or whatever it runs on because you'd be worried it won't work as well and it might get damaged. To consider your body the same thing. So you don't want to put processed and low quality food in it. So to do that, I think cooking at home or using good, quality foods is very important. Now let's move on to how much we should eat. So there's a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam where Rasulullah said that a believer does not put anything worse in his stomach than food. But if he must, then 1/3 for food, 1/3 for water, and 1/3 for air. Let's just analyze this hadith. Rasulullah is literally saying that there's nothing worse you can put in your stomach than food. And we consume food every day, countless times, except in access to the 3 meals we have, breakfast, lunch, dinner. We're always snacking, we're always consuming something. And Rasulullah is telling us that you cannot put anything worse in your stomach than food. But if you must, then 1/3 for food, 1/3 for water, and 1/3 for air. And even if there is a book by Imam Ghazali, it's called Breaking the Two Desires, that is gluttony and lust. He mentions that even this hadith, what the Prophet has mentioned is in access to what a person should be eating. But I know this is not as easy done as said, especially where we are today. So for that, the whole purpose of this presentation is to give you a plan to how we can gradually reach such a state where we can maintain it for the long run. So you should, what we want to achieve, the state we want to achieve regarding food is whenever you have a meal, You want to stop before you are full. You want to stop when you're still hungry. That is the state we want to reach. And in order to do that state, I know today I cannot expect it from you. I cannot expect it from myself, from anyone, to have these changes by tomorrow or have these changes by the next meal. So what we can do is you gradually reduce portions. Maybe you can reduce one morsel or a small portion. You decide from all the meals you have, you reduce a very tiny bit. 1 teaspoon, 1 tablespoon, it's up to you. But you reduce one every day till you reach a level. It might take you 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, wherever, till you reach a point when you have a meal and you stop when you are still hungry. That you reduce the quantity to such an extent that when you even have that whole of that quantity now, we're still hungry. That's the position you want to reach. And once we have reached this state and we've addressed the quantity we eat and we limit our overeating habits and we, leave that 1/3 space for air in our stomach as the Prophet recommended, as the Prophet mentioned in his hadith, then we can move on to the frequency, which I will discuss next. Another point I would like to make here is the hunger test. A lot of you might say or have questions or have thoughts in your mind, but I'm always hungry. If I eat less or if I'll always be hungry. So there's a very good litmus test to do if you are truly hungry or if you are bored or if you are eating out of habit. So what I like to do in this is if, let's say you feel hungry, if at that time you can have boiled chicken without any spices, without any sauces, nothing, just boiled chicken on its own, then yes, you might be hungry. Then you're truly hungry. But if you're more concerned about the type of food, the type of spices and sauces on it, the type of drink you want to have it from a certain place, that you're not truly hungry. If you're too concerned about the type of food you want to eat. And then definitely dopamine plays a role in all of that. When you have all these sugary and high carb and high, processed foods, it raises your dopamine levels. And that's why you probably notice, I'm guilty of it too. Like when you'll have a large meal and you know that you've stuffed yourself, but you can still have a dessert after it. Even though physically you've kind of filled your stomach, you should not feel hungry because that isn't hunger. That's those dopamine levels. That's when you're more concerned about the type of food you want to eat. So once you address the quantity, then we move to the frequency. I think a lot of Desi families and even in my family, there's this habit of having 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Maybe some people have more or less, but generally I would recommend you stick to 2 meals. And once you address the quantity, you should move to having 2 meals. Don't have 3, don't have 4, stick to having 2 meals. And then the timing of these meals also matters. So for that, there's something called as intermittent fasting. I'm pretty sure some of you, maybe most of you have heard about it. Intermittent fasting is where you have a period in your 24 hours where you do not eat any solid foods. You can have liquids such as coffee, green tea, water, but not any drink that has a lot of calories. So if you're having a milkshake, you're not intermittent fasting. That kind of breaks it. It's basically anything with low calories, maybe 0 calories. Black coffee has 0, green tea has 0. So stick to those. So there's various ways to do it. Some people do like a 16 to 8 hour thing where they fast for 16 hours, eat in 8 hours. It's up to you how you want to do it. The only tip I would like to give you in this is that once you wake up, let's say you wake up around Fajr, that's around 5, 6 a.m. these days. Your first meal should come around 11, 12. That should be your first meal. And then your second meal that you're going to have it like 2, 3 hours before you want to go to bed. And that's what you should aim for. I know initially it might be difficult. You might want to have a meal as soon as you wake up. But so you can gradually improve that. Let's say the first week, the first 2 weeks, give it a 30-hour gap. If you're waking up at 6 a.m. and push your first meal to 7 a.m., then the next week push it to 7:30, 8, till you reach a goal where you can give 4 or 5 hours before you have your first meal. And a lot of you might not believe it, but I did not believe it initially either, that if I do that, if I'm hungry, I might not be able to work, I can't focus. But I think since my last year of med school, since then, till now, all the exams and all the studying, I've done it, most of it on an empty stomach, maybe have coffee and stuff. And I've been more sharper. My cognitive function has improved. I've gotten better scores as well compared to before when, I would not do it on an empty stomach. And the reasoning for this is because when you have a meal, it spikes your blood sugar levels. But the thing with your blood sugar is when it spikes, so does insulin. Insulin is a hormone that brings sugar levels down. So when it drops those sugar levels, now you feel like you're in a deficit. So you have that crash. That's why whenever we eat, after that you want to take a nap, you kind of feel sluggish, you're kind of fatigued, or you don't want to do any heavy lifting, you don't want to, focus or do anything that requires any mental strength. And that's all because of that spike. So having those early 4 or 5 hours where you're not eating, especially when you wake up, will give you this added benefit. Plus, there is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that Allah has kept barakah for his ummah in the early hours of the morning. So you have the benefits of being hungry. If you're hungry at that time, you're more focused. And then there's a hadith of the Prophet saying there's more barakah in that time. So it's a win-win situation anywhere you look at it. And having 2 meals, okay, it has sharper mornings, but also you're less concerned about food then. Less time is taken to focus on making those meals, especially for the women. Because I feel like in Desi families, most of the men, they go to work and they're always expecting a new dish or a new meal, 3 times or 4 times a day. So it saves time for those making those meals. And they can use that time to something more productive, maybe, give it to their children or spend more time with their husbands or whatever. But it generally saves you more time and helps you maintain more focus when you're less concerned about something that is not generally good for you anyways. So moving forward, this now, since we've addressed the eating pattern, we've addressed quantity and the frequency. Now I would like to talk about, this is an addition to it, but I still feel today this is very important. So since the modern technology, since the invention of phones, cars, and all these delivery services that we have on phones, our natural movement has been, it's probably the lowest it's ever been. And even though we've traded all this physical, function and physical discomfort for, being at home and all of this accessibility, but in the longer run, it has less benefits than, it has, it's become more destructive for us because now we're moving less. We're getting more joint disease. A lot of the elderly people, forget the elderly people, most of the young people have some sort of posture problems. I have some sort of posture problems. A lot of people have them. You'll have some joint problems, gaining more weight, and all of this generally leads to a very, a decrease in the quality of life you want. Where initially all of these modern inventions were made to improve the quality of our life, but that's not the case if you look into it. So for this, a very simple step is that I want you to start at 4,000 steps daily. I'm pretty sure most of you have smartphones, so do any app that you can. And most of these apps will calculate your steps. So you can start at 4,000 and you want to reach a stage where you can do 8 to 10,000. That should be your target. This is for every day. So simply what you can do is, let's say you wake up, and for the men, especially if you go to the masjid, if the masjid is close by, walk to the masjid. Don't drive. But let's say it's further away, right? It's the masjid or workplace. It's further away. You can't walk to it. Park further away then, so you can get those extra steps in. Let's say you go anywhere and don't take the elevator, take the stairs. Any simple steps. Let's say you get, okay, for the ladies who might say, okay, we don't go out anywhere, we're limited to our homes. The simplest thing you can do is, let's say you're on the phone with your family members, walk around the house while you're talking. Don't sit on the sofa and talk. Any simple changes you can make. And once you have that app, you'll see that those steps will accumulate and then you can easily build on it. So the goal should be 8 to 10,000 steps, and it might seem easy, but it will take you a while to get there. And once you build that lifestyle, and then you can maintain it. And those results that you see over a long period of time will be phenomenal. And then you can maintain this and maybe improve on it. And then in addition to this, the steps is non-negotiable. All of you have to, do this. In addition to this, if most of you want to, maybe you can add exercise too. Because as you age, you lose the muscle if you do not use it. And most of us are guilty of probably not exerting, using our muscles, especially even the men. For the women, I can understand, but a lot of the men don't do any physical activities or workout and stuff. So the problem with that is you will lose those muscles and you will have a lower quality of life, as especially after 30s, your body does not remain the same. Maybe more so after 40s. And if you haven't got that muscle and you haven't built that over a long period of time, your quality of life will decrease as you age. And especially if you have bad eating habits, it's going to happen tremendously fast. So for those interested in this, even for the women and the men, I advise a 3-day per week where it doesn't matter what weights you're using, it doesn't matter the exercises you are doing. Just try to do any type of training you can. If you cannot go to the gym, for a lot of women, they might not be comfortable at the gym. There are many YouTube videos, for beginner levels, intermediate levels, and you can watch any of them. I'll go through some of them and I'll send it into the group if you guys would like, but you can come up with them. You can find them on YouTube and all of that. And then you want to build on this. Progressive overload is something where gradually, because your body is very adaptive. So let's say you're doing 5 push-ups for the first week. It'll be very easy for you to do that in the next week. So you want to progressively increase to 6, 10, and keep going. That's what you want to do. This is not for everybody, but whoever wants to, do this. And for the men, you can go to the gym, do 3 days. If you can't go to the gym, do it at home, but do some sort of strength training. It's very good for you to have that muscle because it increases your metabolic rate the more muscle you have. And it just increases your quality of life. And the goal is not to have a 6-pack in 6 weeks. The goal is to progressively improve over a long period of time and to keep improving and to take smaller steps to a sustainable lifestyle and improve the quality of your life. That is the goal of the whole of this presentation. The goal is not to guarantee results, but the goal is to give you a plan which you can use and slowly build on that and then track your progress as you go. Yeah, I forgot to mention, but tracking your progress is very important because have a journal, write it down, especially how many steps you've taken, look at the trend. Are you improving? Or if you're not improving, what's happening? Look at the triggers, look at your eating habits, and Tracking it will help you know where you began, where you are currently, and how far you are from where you want to go. But I would like to say this, that I don't want you to become too concerned with the outcome. Because when you become too concerned with the outcome, I feel like Shaitan puts these things in your minds when you're like, I'm so far from my goal, and you become more hopeless. The goal should always be to look at what you can do for that day. Have I done uh, what I needed to do for this day? If you've done that, that's it. Then you move on to the next day, and you keep doing that, and then you'll see that you get closer to your destination. Uh, I'm going to come back to this slide. Let me go to the action plan. Action plan is the last slide of what we've discussed so far. This slide is for it's like a base for my another presentation I would like to do in the future. So I'll come back to this. So from what we've discussed so far, I think you should, whoever wants to follow this should print this action plan out and, get a pen or a pencil, get a journal. So initially, I would like you to spend one day analyzing your daily habits. How many times you eat, what kind of foods do you eat, how frequently between meals, how much time it takes for you to, eat again, how many steps you take, how active are you throughout the day. Once you've analyzed that, then you can, once you've analyzed it, then you can pick one thing or even both the things meaning the eating habits and the physical activity. If you want to address both at the same time, that's great. If not, then pick one which you want to address and then slowly build, reduce a portion. If you're addressing your eating habits, reduce one portion a day. If you're addressing your physical activity, start walking for 1,000 steps and then keep tracking it. Keep tracking it. That will help you keep a track of where you are, where you need to go. But always focus on the day. Focus on the things you can control. You cannot control what you're going to do tomorrow. Tomorrow is not here yet, but you can control what you're going to do today. You can control your habit for the day. And that's what you should focus on. So for this presentation, this is it. However, I would like to take some time to address the previous slide, if you would let me.
Mhm.
So I would like to do another presentation on hunger and the benefits of hunger and how a lot of the Imams, Imam Ghazali and many others have noted and they all agree that the stomach is the gateway to controlling all other desires. That's why it's not considered a sin. हमारे हमारे माशरे में ना gluttony को gluttony I would say is जो आपकी आंखों में हवस है खाने के लिए. If I was to define gluttony, and not necessarily overeating. A very good example of this is that if a lot of people, a lot of you guys are from Desi families, if you go to any walima or barat, so a lot of the people are waiting for the food to open. और जैसे ही वो खाना खुलता है, they all rush towards it. Like, but most of these people aren't, ऐसा नहीं है कि ये, they come from families where they can't afford food. Most of them are economically well settled and financially, stable. But it's that, it's that craving they have for food and, they'll rush towards food. And, when you're concerned with food throughout the day, when you're always thinking about it, that is what gluttony is. And gluttony is not considered a sin. If you look at most of our ulama, I'm pretty sure if you look at the physical appearance, you can tell that they definitely don't think gluttony is a sin. However, the benefits of being hunger, if you look at a lot of, if you read about the Sahaba and how long they fasted for and how much fasting was recommended, and the benefits it has on the cognitive function too, but the benefit it has in disciplining the soul, gripping the soul, and having that control of your desires to make sure that your body, your soul does not indulge into other desires, especially one of the desires that is directly linked to is lust. And I'm pretty sure if everybody here is honest with themselves, most of the sins we commit are generally when we've had that meal and when we're full. And that is why there's a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where the Prophet recommended that those who can marry should marry, and those who cannot should fast. And that state of hunger builds the character and builds that spiritual discipline. And I'm just going over it roughly. I would like to do a presentation on this and go deeper into it and how we can, the benefits we would have and how we can achieve this, and how it stops us from committing other sins and how maybe we can use it to becoming more disciplined and disciplining our soul, especially. For this, I do recommend for most of the users here, you should all read the book by Imam Ghazali. I have it here. It's called Disciplining the Two Desires. And the two desires are gluttony and lust. So you should definitely read that book, and maybe in the future we can discuss it in the next presentation. And before I end it, I would like to want your focus on this ayah of the Quran. It is from Surah Al-Furqan, and Allah says that have you seen the one who has made his desires his Lord? And I like saying it in Urdu. I feel like it gives more expression to it because most of us don't know Arabic. I don't know Arabic, so in Urdu, I feel like the translation makes more sense to me. कि आपने वो इंसान देखा है जिसने अपने नफ्स को ही अपना खुदा बना लिया. And it does apply to this eating habits. It is exactly that. If you cannot control what you put in your stomach, if you cannot control your eating habits, that is exactly what you are doing. So I would like to end it here. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity and for listening to me patiently. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hamza.
Should I just take the questions, or anything else that you
Yeah,
need to?
I'm just putting the survey form on, and then
Oh.
if you, and then
Well,
Should
everyone-
I stop sharing the screen?
Yeah, you can stop sharing the screen if you want.
Okay, perfect.
Right. So all the listeners, could you please fill out the survey form, which is in the chat? And after that, Dr. Hamza will take all of your questions. The questions can be in English and Urdu as well. It doesn't really matter. तो जिसने उर्दू में पूछना है आप उर्दू में पूछें. Please raise your hand, and each one of you can ask questions in turn. So just fill out the survey form first, and then we'll start with the questions. I'll give everyone 2 minutes. I think we can wait 2 minutes.
it's a good idea to give it a little time. Last time we didn't get any surveys much done, so it's good, Brother Ahmed, giving a minute to finish the survey. Are you all doing it? Inshallah.
So I'm drinking black coffee,
Okay.
for those that asked in the comments.
I think we should start, Brother Ahmed. We've only got
Okay,
one survey done. I'll put it in the group. We're not getting any, we've only got one done so far. So let's start with the questions, inshallah.
So just unmute yourselves and you can ask questions. I think this Farhana Shaheen.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Walaikum assalam.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Jazakallah khair for such an informative presentation. Jazakallah khair. You've been referring to all the ahadith and all these things, so I would really request you to share these ahadith on the chats on WhatsApp also. Very
Okay.
valuable suggestions and all. I just wanted to add some of my experiences, right? Alhamdulillah, you spoke about the intermittent fasting and other things, the other habits. So some of the things that I have learned, like, I'm quite aged, right? So throughout my life, what I have been caring about is, like early morning, make it a habit. Okay, early morning, drink lukewarm water with honey and lemon, or asab whole husk. When you take asab whole husk every morning, it's detoxing your whole stomach, and it's filling your stomach also. So then you give time to have your breakfast. And early morning also, if you're taking black coffee, then I read, and you can research also, that you should add cloves, long, and a pinch of cinnamon. That also works a lot. So कुछ चीजें ऐसी हैं कि जिसमें हम खुद को कर सकते हैं. भूख के बारे में आपने कहा, तो हम भूख लगने ही ना दें. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, खाने से पहले हम अगर कुछ फ्रूट्स खा लें या सैलेड बना के खा लें. So one of the things that I have noted in Pakistan, कि we are not in the habit of having salads and all. ये माशाल्लाह इतनी चीजें मिल जाती हैं, खीरा, ककड़ी, so many things. लेकिन हम उसको अवॉइड करते हैं, हम सीधा खाना खाते हैं, तो फिर हमें और ज्यादा खाने की जरूरत. लेकिन उससे पहले, and another thing is, do not never eat fruit after the meal. Eat fruit at least 1 hour before the meal, so that still, like, you have something which is affecting your stomach and it's filling your stomach also. So go for the things. And one thing you forgot to mention is bhune hue chane. If you don't know, अगर आप भुने हुए चने अपने ऑफिस में भी रखें, अपने घर में भी रखें, भूख लगी है तो वो खा लें, और फिर आप उसके इफेक्ट्स देखें. सो देयर आर मेनी थिंग्स. एंड फास्टिंग तो है ही है कि इंटरमिटेंट फास्टिंग से आई ऑलवेज प्रेफर कि जब अपने फास्टिंग करनी है तो फिर आप फास्टिंग करें, जो अल्लाह नबी पाक सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने जो कहा है कि 3 days in the middle and fasting on either Mondays or Thursdays. So that also works a lot. So Jazakallah khair. These were the comments from me.
I think you gave a very good advice, and I do agree. And there's a lot of research today. I don't think there's a lot of research, but a lot of doctors are taking this approach where they do recommend whenever you have meals, let's say you're having a chicken rice meal. So they would say, okay, you start off with fiber, let's say from your vegetables, and then you have
Yeah.
protein, and for your carbs, those should be the last because that raises your blood sugar levels very less as compared to if you had the carbs with the protein or if you had the carbs pehle. So as you mentioned, having ispagola husk, that is fiber. So
Yeah.
having more fiber generally, it kind of, I would say, decreases the effect of on blood sugar levels of the other foods. So yes, it's a very good recommendation.
And no water before or after having, and these sodas that we are used to taking with khana and all those things, especially for the kids and all those things. So no Coca-Cola, nothing, and no water before and after meal. So अगर आपको पानी पीना है तो खाने से चंद मिनट पहले आप 2 घूंट पानी पी लें, आपकी प्यास चली जाएगी, और आराम से खाना खाएं. उससे पहले सैलेड खा लें, तो सैलेड से भी आपकी पानी खीरा तो है ही पानी, तो आप खीरा खा लें. ऐसे बच्चों को इतनी आदत करें कि उसके बाद आपको बिल्कुल यानी एक नॉर्मल खाना खा के आप उठ जाए. एंड बाय द वे, जो शादी का आपने कहा था टूटते हैं, उसका तो रीजन मैं बता दूं कि वो इतने तरसात रात को 11-12 बजे देते हैं कि बंदा अगर नॉर्मल बंदा भी हो तो वो टूटेगा ही. जज़ाकल्लाह खैर.
जी I think we should just stick to the questions क्योंकि फिर काफी लंबा हो
Okay,
जाएगा. But आप
I have a
please
question.
गाइडेंस ग्रुप में प्लीज शेयर करें. आई थिंक काफी लोग ना इनसे बेनिफिट करेंगे, तो ग्रुप में आप अगर आप शेयर कर सकते हैं आपके जो फाइंडिंग्स वगैरह, तो काफी ज्यादा आई थिंक हेल्प हेल्प मिलेगी। अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट आई थिंक सबने सवाल पूछने, डिस्कशंस फर्दर ऑन किसी और सेशन में फिर हम स्पेसिफिक उस पर कर लेंगे। जी।
Okay, my question is एक तो very short. हम लोग औरतें स्पेशली we shy to go to gym. हम दुनिया के हम सारे काम कर लेंगे, लेकिन जब कोई हेल्थ की या कोई ऐसी बात होगी तो हम उसमें शायद महसूस करते हैं कि हम नहीं जा सकते। वेयर मॉडर्न ड्रेस एंड यू शुड गो फॉर जिम, बिकॉज वहाँ के जो इक्विपमेंट है वी डोंट हैव एट होम, स्पेशली वेट लिफ्टिंग के। मेरा सेकंड क्वेश्चन ये कि आई एम जस्ट स्टार्ट वेट लिफ्टिंग। अभी लेग्स और आर्म्स तो ठीक हो गए, दे सोर इन द बिगनिंग, बट आई हैव अ प्रॉब्लम इन माय लाइक अपर बॉडी, लाइक चेस्ट के अराउंड, हाथ के पास ना। सो व्हाट शुड आई डू? आई शुड स्टॉप नाउ और आई जस्ट कीप कंटिन्यू? और कितने वेट से मैं शुरू करूं? मतलब आई थिंक मैंने ज्यादा वेट लिफ्टिंग की है, इस वजह से हो रहा है। इट्स बीन अ वीक नाउ।
A problem as in, like, do you have a lot of pain there?
Not pain, but movement, hand movement a lot. I do a hand movement a lot, so it feels more actually compared to my legs and stomach.
Okay, generally when you work out, the whole thing about muscle soreness is that obviously when you're exerting too much, and it could be due to a couple of reasons. Maybe you've overtrained. So that's why I recommended 3 days a week. But
Okay.
the weight, जो आपका सवाल है ना कि कितने weight से, that depends on you. You can start from 2 kgs, 4 kgs, but you build it up. You want to progressively improve. It doesn't matter where you start, but you want to progressively improve. That's how you will build muscle. The whole purpose of building muscle is that you exert it and you keep exerting it. So your body has to adapt, and it adapts by increasing the muscle in that area. And
So
as far as gym, why I gave that recommendation is because Pakistan में तो I think, I don't know, Pakistan में फिर भी there are female only gyms, but especially in the West, finding female only gyms is difficult. So yes, that's why I
but
gave that recommendation.
they have hours, some. I'm from Dallas, so there are some hours you can is women's. And if I go with my husband and my kids, my sons, and it's feel more comfortable. I just wear modest dress, hijab, and I do feel comfortable in the beginning because I'm the only one hijabi, so it looks weird. But Alhamdulillah, after listening and talking, Sister Farida, and Alhamdulillah, and now because of me, the two more sisters also join. So we should
That's good. That's a
initiate
good
and we should
initiative. Yes, definitely we should initiate physical activities, especially for women.
Inshallah. Jazakallah.
Any other questions? And please try to keep the questions short, as the talk has already been quite lengthy. So please, everyone, go ahead. I think we have Sister Sana. You can unmute your mic. Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. My question is,
Walaikum assalam.
when your stomach is empty, is it good to take coffee?
Probably not. Like I said, like I struggle with a lot of these things too. Probably not. I would suggest that maybe if you're having coffee in the morning, maybe have it with a bit of milk. Don't have black coffee on an empty stomach. Yeah, but yeah, don't have it on an empty stomach if you're having black. Just add a bit of milk to it. Maybe eat something light and then have it. But the general rule should be not to overconsume. Don't have too many. Don't eat too much. The whole purpose of coffee is to act as a stimulant to help you work. So if you don't need it as a stimulant, and if you don't need it to work, don't have it out of habit. There's no point of drinking coffee out of habit when it does not fuel your day. I'm guilty of that. I have coffee even when I'm not doing anything. And that's not a good habit to have. So I would recommend only have coffee when you're trying to fuel your day, or you have a stressful day ahead, or you have a long day ahead. But other than that, just try to refrain your caffeine consumption as much as you can.
Any other questions?
It's in the chat, Brother Armagan, chat.
Dr. Hamza, if you could have a look at the chat.
Can you see the
Okay, I'll have a
chat?
look.
What are the most
What are-
effective ways to reduce chronic inflammation naturally?
Naturally, what should okay. So for this is the easiest principle is you avoid any processed food. And that is very difficult these days because, okay, except even for if you take out fast food and you take out, all of these foods, even if you're getting, buying something from the grocery store, the chances are it's going to be processed. So you want to limit that, especially all these dairy products. They're highly processed. So if you're in Pakistan, it's easy for you. You can, you probably know someone and you can get like raw milk or, even raw yogurt, raw honey. All of that is there's more accessibility to all of that. Yes, the research is a bit varied on it. They do recommend that, it be highly pasteurized and so it kills all the bacteria, which my personal opinion is, I think is not, I think it's just to sell those items. So stick to whole foods. Don't indulge in fast food. Try to limit your dairy consumption. Start with that. And even if you start with that, but what you got to realize is you can't expect results in a week or 2 weeks. But the results will come over months to years. So if you build these habits, limit your fast food intake, limit dairy as much as you can. Try to not have any of these chocolate, all of these processed foods, and you will definitely see that it will decrease the inflammation in your body. And you'll see it generally, you'll feel more active, all of your cognitive function will improve, your physical health will improve. You'll get less sick. And the amount of times we get sick, that's not normal. We should not be getting sick this often. So a lot of that is due to what we put in our stomachs, and especially the types of food we eat. So start with that. Start with whole foods. Decrease fast food.
Dr. Hamza, I had a question. When a baby is born, the
Yes.
baby eats very frequently, right? So I was wondering how this applies to age, and especially to when you get old, whether this into eating twice still applies, or, I just want to know from the age perspective.
Obviously, this recommendation applies to adults like us. You can't apply this to babies, obviously, because at that stage your cells are replenishing at such a fast rate that babies, especially newborn babies, they feed every hour or every couple of hours. So obviously it does not apply to that. This generally applies to those adults who have, or even it applies to children that have reached that stage of puberty, and then they can build towards this. When you're younger, it doesn't really matter. And those kids, but the problem is, okay, when you're a baby, your mother feeds you breast milk or you have like formula milk. The problem becomes when those kids reach 4 or 5 and you give them chocolates, you give them soda, you give them fast food. Then you're just, you're making them addicts to all of these habits even before they've realized what's good or bad. So another purpose of this presentation is for the parents who have children. So you got to be careful about what you feed your kids to and the eating habits you develop in them. But obviously, it does not apply to babies and infants who are younger.
What about with age, elderly like myself? Would you say the intermittent fasting is a better thing, or eating 2 meals or eating 3 small meals? Does that make a difference?
Okay, so I would recommend, especially there's a lot of factors that take into this place, especially if you're a diabetic or you have some medical condition. It does not apply to you because I do not know the extent of your diabetes, the medications you're taking, you could go into hypoglycemia or you could have high blood sugar levels. But generally, for the elderly, I would suggest that they do not eat too frequently. If you want to have 3 meals, have smaller meals because I get with the elderly, it's difficult to tweak those habits too. It's not as easy to, switch your habits as it is for younger people. So I would not recommend you make any, extravagant changes. So if you are having 3 meals, if you can, I would still suggest that you stick to 2 meals, try to eat a bit less. But obviously that is if you do not have any underlying medical conditions.
Okay, all right, thank you. There is another question in the chat. People do argue.
Okay, I'll have a. Okay, so as far as the acidity is concerned, most of that is called, it's called GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. So a lot of that happens depending on the foods you eat. So basically your stomach produces acid in response to, whenever you eat, so it can digest the food. But let's say you're having like very spicy or, oily foods. Now your stomach is going to produce excessive acid in order to digest that type of food. And the acidity is basically when that acid goes up into your esophagus and you can feel it in the back of your throat and you feel that burning sensation. So obviously I feel like if you eat more often, there's more chance of you producing acid because you're putting more food in your stomach and your body is going to make more acid to digest that food. So there would be less acidity if you had less food, technically. And the second part of the question. Okay, I'll give you an example of myself. Me and Armagan used to go to the gym, I think a year or 2 years back. So we did this thing. He did not believe me initially when I told him, I don't think, especially how we eat, even if you work out while you are hungry, that it has any effect on your strength. And he can tell you that it does not. What you're referring to is if you stayed in a state of hunger for if you stay in a state of hunger for like let's say a week and your glycogen stores are depleted, yes, then maybe you will feel lethargic and you'll have low energy. But generally, even if you're consuming 1 meal a day, your glycogen stores aren't depleted. You shouldn't feel that drop in energy, unless maybe you have a condition going on in the background. Maybe if you have a thyroid problem. So obviously, this does not apply to those people. Then those people obviously require further evaluation. But yeah, generally, you don't need to eat every 2-3 hours to get energy. There is a question by Sara Qureshi about PCOS. Like I have mentioned earlier, this presentation does not apply to anybody who has any background medical condition. You need to, especially if you have PCOS, you need
define PCOS, Dr. Hamza. What is PCOS?
Okay, so PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's a common condition in women. What happens in this condition is you have this hormonal imbalance, especially in your ovaries. So you produce a lot of testosterone, and with it, you gain weight, and it becomes difficult to lose that weight. And due to those hormones, you also get diabetes along the line. And there's a lot of other conditions along with it, a lot of other symptoms you might feel. So for those people, obviously this does not apply. You should get evaluated from an endocrinologist, I suggest, and then you can work up a plan with them. But for PCOS especially, weight loss is the first lifestyle modification in the guidelines recommended, and it helps a lot in managing it, especially some of the side effects that you face from PCOS.
Okay.
Is there any other question?
Any other questions anybody has they would like to ask? Please come forward. No?
Yes, like Fatima Noor mentioned, the term for PCOS has recently changed.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's the same disease.
Yeah. And there's another question, Dr. Hamza, in the chat. I have bloating.
And fibroid and ovarian cyst, could gluten-free things help me? Yes, gluten-free things, depending on if you're allergic to gluten, might be causing you problems. The disease is called celiac. However, for your fibroid and ovarian cysts, I think fibroid cysts are more to do with your estrogen levels. And they generally, fibroids decrease after a woman reaches menopause. That is because the estrogen levels drop after menopause. As far as ovarian cysts are concerned, most of them are very benign. However, you need to be evaluated by a gynecologist or gynecologist. I cannot give you an opinion regarding this. But if the question is if you think gluten-free things will help you in these two cases, they might help you in the bloating and cramping if you have celiac disease, or if you might have lactose intolerance, which is very common. So even try remaining lactose-free and try to avoid gluten-free things. And if you do that and if those symptoms improve, you should stick to it. But as far as your history of fibroid and ovarian cyst is concerned, I think that is they will not help in that. That should be evaluated from a physician, especially a gynecologist. And the next question is, Dr. What's your take on boxing? I don't think there's a solution to, yeah, there is a solution. If you do spar, try to do body sparring so that you get hit in the head less often, and that reduces your chance of concussion. But generally, if you're boxing, like Brother Magan does a lot of boxing. So if you're boxing, the risk is there, right? So if you get hit in the head, you might get a concussion. Not much. Maybe you can wear the head guard. That might reduce it. But other than that, I would say if you're not competing at a bigger level, if you're not competing nationally or, competitively, try to stick to body sparring. Don't get hit or don't hit anyone in the face. What are safe and mild drugs for weight loss meal supplements? So there's a lot of meal supplements. What I would recommend is, because a lot of us are deficient in vitamin D and vitamin B12s. So maybe if you can get your tests done, maybe have a look at vitamin D, have a look at vitamin B12. If they're low, then you might want to, for that, I recommend the IM injections that you can get a physician. They have a better absorption. And there's a lot of research going on if you're taking oral supplements. Whenever you buy a vitamin D, buy it with K2. It helps with the absorption. Other than that, if you're talking about drugs, there are many drugs in the market, but all of them have their side effects. Maybe a lot of people love to microdose. But the problem with microdosing is that if you're not going to achieve the result with microdosing unless you do it for a very long period of time. So you'll still get the side effects. Because if you're having let's say if you're having a medication and you want to achieve a fat loss in 1 month, and you're taking 10 mg a day, and that's like 300 mg a month, if you microdose that to 2 mg a day, you'll still have to go to that dosage of 300 mg to have the effect. So it's gonna, the side effects will remain. And I don't recommend it unless For people who are highly obese, yes, then they can go to a physician, but you still have to go to a physician and they need to analyze other aspects because a lot of these drugs do have contraindications, like the Manjaro, that is contraindicated in patients who have thyroid cancer or papillary cancer, and I think a lot of other couple of diseases. And I can guarantee you, most of the people don't know that, though they're contraindicated, because most of the people don't really care. So you're looking for, when you're looking for fast results, overnight results, you miss these things, and then they have very drastic effects. So I would recommend fix your habits. Once you fix those habits, you have a long-term solution. But with these drugs, it only works as long as you take it. And what happens when you get the side effects and you cannot take it? You'll go back. So try to fix your habits, take it one step a day, and that'll help you more.
Dr. Hamza, what is the reason that there's so many people with allergies? Somebody has nut allergy, milk allergy, wheat allergy. It's like, was this always like this, or are we just?
If you want my personal opinion, are you recording this? Okay, my
Yes.
personal opinion is, so if what I've noticed, I recently lived in the UK, and more people are allergic in the UK, right? Compared to people in Pakistan. And I've noticed this trend, the more developed a country is, the more they seem allergic, the more autoimmune diseases are there. So I think it's not difficult to, to put one by one together. They're more vaccinated, they have more processed foods. So maybe, one of these things do play a role, but it is up for discussion, and it can be. There is a last question about chromium. I do not know about that. I'm sorry about controlling answer. I'll read up on it, and then maybe I can answer this question later. There is a question about celiac disease. Yes, obviously initially the presentation of celiac is obviously when you're having gluten in your diet, which most of the people are before they're diagnosed. That does not get absorbed, and you develop this allergic reaction, and you do lose weight. You can gain weight, obviously, you just have to stick to gluten-free foods. And the whole thing about weight is if you have more calories than you burn, you'll gain weight. But you'll just have to stick to gluten-free options. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think we're going on past the time as well. We should wrap it up. So Dr. Hamza is saying he would like to conduct another talk anyway, so we would love to have that talk as well.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. And we look forward to you joining us next Sunday for our talk with Brother Akas, which is on the prophetic way in Mecca. How did the changes come about there? So please join us for that.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. And there's one more question for you, Dr. Hamza. I'll let that one go. What are the symptoms of knowing we need vitamin B12?
So the thing with vitamin B12 is that our bodies have a very big store of it. So initially you do not face any symptoms, but the symptoms you might feel they're similar to something called as peripheral neuropathy. So you might feel weakness in your lower legs, you might feel tingling sensations, you might have imbalance while standing, problems with your gait. These are like, if you have these symptoms, they require evaluation, because the thing about vitamin B12 is, I would not like to scare any of you. If it gets to an extent when you're very deficient, it can cause problems that are permanent. So that is why if you do feel these symptoms of, feeling weakness in your lower legs or tingling sensations, loss of sensation, you should definitely get evaluated and take those vitamin B12 injections.
Okay, good. All right, so that was our final question. Sister Nikat, are you there with us? There, Sister Nikat? Okay, so we'll wind up and say Allah Hafiz to everyone. Thank you very much, Dr. Hamza. Thank you, Brother Armagan, for being here with us. We really appreciate it. I think the health area is a major area where, once the health is established, then we can serve Allah Ta'ala. So we can intend to continue having these talks and so that we can get a grip of our health issues and get stronger and better in our physical self to serve Allah Ta'ala to the best of our ability. So please join me in making a dua. As you all know, we are working on the masjid project. We very much want everybody to participate in the masjid project. The Ummah is in a state where we need help, and together with you, we can bring about the change by strengthening our mosque. So please work with me on that, and I'll put the surveys and links in there. And with that, I say Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and keep the dua there for the Ummah, and so that our masjids are empowered. And thank you so much for joining us. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you. Jazakallah.
Jazak.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Stop the recording.